Welcome to day number 23. So far, we know how to write the Java code, but just writing Java code is not the end goal. The end goal is that you should be able to build application, and that application should be easily deployable. It should be available for your end user and customer to use it. Now, one of the ways of finding an executable version of the Java program is getting a jar file. So what is jar file? How do you go and create it? How do you go and execute it? All of these things we're gonna see in today's video so that we understand that how we can make a executable Java files. So now let's try to take a small backward jump. We have been talking a lot about the Java. We have been using Eclipse, and Eclipse made things pretty simple for us. Now it's time now, once you have got a little comfortable with the Java, to understand that how you can go and actually execute the Java code without the Eclipse itself. As a good Java programmer, it's very important to understand that what happens behind the hood. So let's try to understand that with the help of an example itself. So normally, every time you go and write any Java program, what you do is that you go and define a file called as, let's say that I'm trying to define something called as multiplication. Right? So I have to go and define a file called as multiplication.java, and inside it there has to be a class called as multiplication. I have mentioned this multiple times in the Eclipse also, that name of this class should match with the name of this file. Now once you have written this Java file, it has to be first of all compiled, and once you compile it and everything is all fine, you get something called as multiplication.class file, and this class file is finally what you go and execute. Now Eclipse has been doing all this thing for us behind the hood, and we don't have to care about it. But how if, let's say that you are in an environment where you don't have the Eclipse, how do you do it? So for that we're going to learn about few tools called as JavaC first of all. So JavaC is a tool which comes shipped. So when you go and install JDK, Java Development Kit, on your machine, JavaC came by default with it. So it helps you do the compilation of the program. And there's another program called as Java which is used to execute the program. Now how does that happen? Let's try to see with the hands-off example. So now instead of opening Eclipse, our go-to tool, we are going to start something called as Sublime. You can use your favorite text editor. If you're Windows, you can use anything like Notepad or Notepad++ or Sublime if you want to use it. So first of all, let me go and define a, let me go and try to save this file. And let me first of all go and create a file name. So save as. So inside the work folder I have a Java file, so we're going to define it called as a multiplications is the name of the Java file dot Java. Right? We always go and store any Java file with the extension called as multiplication.java, and then I go and define call as public class, and I go and call it as multiplications, and inside there I go and add a method called as multiply. So I go and say that public int, and I go and call it as multiply, and it takes two, int a comma int b, and what it does is that it goes and returns a into b. So let me go and define this multiplication.java class. As soon as I have done it, let me go and open to my terminal. So what I'll go and do is that I'll go and open my terminal, and I'll just increase the font of this terminal. I hope you are able to see the font right now. Now if I go and open my Finder window, it is that inside the work, inside the Java files, I have this multiplication.java. As you can see, there is one single file right now. Open my desk scribble here. So if I open my desk scribble, I can go and demonstrate that inside my work folder I have this Java files, and inside Java files I have just one file called as multiplication.java. Right? The same thing if I go and do the help of the command line. Since I am working on the Mac, I can go and make use of cd command to go to that folder. So I go to the cd, and then I have the work folder, and then I have Java files. Now to know the content inside the file, I can just go and type a command called as ls. If you are on Windows, you can use the according files commands. So it has a multiplication.java. Now the next thing that I need to do is that I want to go and compile this Java file. How do I do it? As I told you, we go and make use of a utility tool which is available, which is Java C, and then followed by the. Now at this point of time, if there's any errors, it will go and throw me the error. If I go and run this, it has not thrown me error because there's no error as such. But let's say that if there's something wrong, if let's say that I go and create this C as a capital and save it, and try to run this Java C again, you will see that I have got a big list of the errors which has come up, is showing up here. It's saying that the error is here, the C cannot be capital, right? So this compiler will make sure that all the rules and regulations that Java has to follow is being taken care of. I'll go and correct this mistake, make it small c, save it here, and again if I go and run this, this whole error will go away. Now at this point of time, if I go and try to see the ls, I see that now there are two files. One was the multiplication.java, which was the original file, and now what I have got is the .class file. This is a bytecode file. This is a bytecode file. If I go and try to open this file, right, I come to my Sublime and let me try to go and open this file. So if I go and open and I go to this location multiplication.class file, you will find the content of this. This is a bytecode file. This is a byte code. You cannot understand. It's a hexadecimal number. All of that what you are gonna see here. Cool. So I have been able to compile the file. Now it's the time to go and run it. So let me go to my terminal again. To run this file, I just go and make use of the command called as Java, followed by the name of the file itself. No extension, just multiplications. When I go and run this, I see some error. It is saying that main method not found in the class multiplication. We know that only class which has a main method could be executed. Now in this multiplication class there is no main method, so it is saying that it cannot be executed. It need to have the public static void main. So to make it run, let me go and define another class called as test. So let me go and define another class. Let me go and call it as save as test.java. Right, and let me go and call it as public class test, and inside that I should have the public static void main string args, and now I can go and say that multiplications m equals to new multiplications and then I want to say that m dot, inside the multiplication I have a method called as multiply, right? So I can go and say that int result equals to m dot multiply. I go and pass the value 5,6, and then I go and write the system dot out dot println, and I go and pass the result of product is 5 into 6 equals to, and then I go and call it as result. Fair enough. So now what I can do is that I have to go and compile this class as well. Java C equals to test dot java and enter. Everything is fine, so it's compiled. So now I can go and run Java test on the top. If I go and bring it here, and I see that it has been able to print things, which is the test of the product is 5 into 6. Right, the result it is able to print. Right, the result of the product is 5 into 6 equal to 30. So this is, sir, how you can go and make use of the utility Java C and Java to actually go and compile the code and then run it. Once we have understood this, now let's try to deep dive on one important topic, which is called as a jar files. What are those? Let's try to talk in details now. Perfect. So now since we have understood that how the Java code could be run from the command line, let's try to understand that the next term which is very much needed for any Java developer. So why do we go and create application? We go and create applications because we want our users to use it. Now, when we go and write the code, right? Let's say that I have written a Java code. I have written a Java code with one single purpose, that with this code I am trying to build some application. And then I would want that eventually someone should make use of this application to solve some problem. How do I enable these people to invoke these programs? How I can ship the code that I have written to the external world? Because that's a very common use case. You write code, you build application so that a third party or anyone extra can go and make use of code to run it or solve their own problems. So the way through which you can ship all your Java code together in the form of an application so that external people can start using it, that term is called as jar files. Jar stands for Java Archive File. Jar stands for Java Archive Files. What it does is that when you go and create the project, it takes all the files together, included in one place, and then it goes and gives it so that external people can go and use or execute it. Now, before we go and talk about that, how we can go and create our own jars using Eclipse or our own hands-on, let's try to see the jar file in action. With that, I think we'll have more context to understand things better. So let me go and open my Chrome. And if you see on the Chrome right now, let me go and minimize this a little, right? Screen flow is there. The scribble. Fair enough. So I have opened this website called as Source4j, right? And here I have this game called Super STL. Now typically this is a game which is based on Java. It's a Java based, so the makers of the Super STL game, they have made use of Java. What I'm going to do now is let's go and download this game. As I do it, you can see that the download will start slowly in 0 seconds, and I feel it's already been downloaded. Now let me go to my new Finder window, as you can see here, and I'll go to my downloads, and here you see the last download item, which was V01 prototype zip. If I go and double click on it, I'll go and open it, and inside this, right, you can see something called as a super.htl.jar. Now this is an executable file. So jar file is basically an executable file which will launch the game. Let's try to launch it and see how it works. So what I can do is that I can try to double click on this. Now since I'm running it on a Mac, and Mac gives you a lot of warnings because of the security concerns, it is saying that it is not verified app, so you cannot go and open it. What I'll do is I'll go and right click on this, and I go and say open with Java launcher, because I have Java already installed on my system. I go and say that I go and launch it through the Java launcher. Once I go and do it, it is again asking me with all the statement that, are you sure you want to open it? Yes, I am. And I go and click on the open. As soon as I go and open it, you can see a good graphical user interface has come up, and it's saying game over. Now it's in a different language. The intention is not to play the game here, but to explain you how a typical jar file looks like and how you go and open it. So jar file is basically allowing all your Java code at one place, so that you can go and zip it together, package it together, and give it to the end client, to your customers, to your users, so that your application could be executed well. Fair enough. So this was the GUI, graphical user interface, way of opening a jar file. How can I do? I'm a programmer. I want to do it through the command line itself. So for that, again, I go to my terminal, and same commands you guys can follow in your Windows as well. Let me go and increase the font here. Correct. So using the cd command, I can go to my downloads folder where it got downloaded. Now if I go and do ls, it will go, and ltr, it will go and download me all the items which was there. Which was the folder? This is the folder where my jar file is. So I go and copy this and again do cd and I go and let me clear it first. When I go and pass clear, the whole terminal gets clean. I go and say that cd and I go and pass inside this folder. Inside the ls, when I go and do, if you can see here, I have this jar file which is super htl.jar. Perfect. Now I have to go and execute it. To execute a jar file, what we do is that we run a command called as java and then we go and pass -jar and then we go and pass and we go and call it as super htl.jar. As you can see here, what I did, I made use of java command followed by saying an option that it is a jar file and then giving the jar file path. Since I'm the same folder, I can just give the name. If I'm not in the same folder, I'll have to go and provide the absolute path of this jar file. Now what I do, I go and click on enter and as you can see, it's a command line way of opening this graphical user interface and gets game over. It's what it's saying. I don't know what language it is. Done. So this is how I go and open the jar file. Now I told you this jar file is not a single file, it's basically the entire package. It's a compressed package of Java files and other files. So let's say that my intention is to go and see and peep inside that what is inside this jar file. So for doing that, I can go and make use of an option called as jar. And then I go and say that -tvf. tvf means T stands for, I want to go and see what is the table of content. So T stands for table of content. V stands for that it has to be verbose, boss. And F, definitely it's a file. Right? So I go and give the option jar -tvf. And then here I go and provide the name of the file itself. The name of the file was super htl.jar. When I go and do this, what happens? I have manifest.mf file. I have these many classes. There are multiple classes which is there, which together has been combined together as a jar file. And this is a main file. Now if I go and try to see what is written inside this manifest.mf file, let's try to go and see that as well. So we make use of a command called as cat and then I go and say that meta. Okay, so right now if I go and see, I have not been able to extract the entire jar file. So first of all, with the jar -tvf when I did, I actually peeked inside that what is there inside. Now let's say that I want to go and break this jar into the classes. So I can go and make use of an option called as, I can go and do the option called as jar -xvf and then again. So when I go and do this -xvf, what it did is that it extracted all the classes inside there. So if I go and do this now, if I do ls now, which goes and tell me what is inside this folder, I see there's so many things, right? I have a meta and a folder. Now I can try to go and see what is the content of this. So I can go and see that cat is used to read through a file. I go and say that meta inf and then inside this. And if you see here, the content of this meta manifest.mf file is that manifest version, ent version created by Sun Microsystems, main class is main. So important point that I want to highlight here is that whenever you go and create the jar file and you have to execute, how will the people know that which is the starting point, which is the first file to be executed? So you have to go and create a manifest file where you have to go and explain that boss, main class is the one which I want to go and execute the very first time, and it will keep on calling the other classes to follow the entire execution. Fair enough? So now with that, we've understood how a jar file helps you to package all the classes together and deliver the final application, the end product to your customers, using which your customers can go and play with it. Now let's try to understand that if I have to go and create my own jar file, how do I do it? So for doing that, let me go and open my Eclipse. So I go to my Eclipse, and when I Eclipse inside this folder, let's try to go and create a new project itself. So I go and create something called as file, new new Java project, and inside this let me go and call it as jar demo. And let me go and click on the finish. Now inside this jar demo, let me go and create a new package, and let me go and call it as com.aimers, and inside that let me go and define a class called as hello world. And inside this let me go and write something called as public static void main string args, and I write sys out, and I go and call it as hello world. Fair enough. Now what I want to do is that I want to go and create a jar file out of this, right? So if I go and click on this export, and I would like to go and export as a runnable. So I have three options, right? If you can see on the screen here, I have option of jar file and runnable jar file. I want to be runnable jar file, so I go and select the runnable jar file and click on the next, and it's looking for that which destination should I go and do that. So let me go and do it in a destination. Let me go and find out. Let's do it in the download itself, right? And let me go and call it as jar demo. Save. So I also have to go and provide the launch configuration. If you remember, there was a meta-inf file where I have to go and tell what is the starting point of my class. So in the launch configuration, I go and select this hello world jar demo as the starting point of my class. Then out of these three options, I go and select copy required libraries into a subfolder next to the generated jar, and then I go and click on the finish. As soon as I done, I'm able to create the jar file using the Eclipse. If I go and open on my download, it's here jar demo _ live, and it has jar demo.jar file. If I double click on this, nothing will happen because it was printing on the console. But let's try to hit it through the terminal. So if I go to my terminal and I come out of it, and then I have cd. What was the name of the file? The name of the file was jar demo. Jar demo _ live. Fair enough. I go and do this. I have a jar demo.jar file outside this, right? I have that jar demo.jar file here on the downloads section here itself directly. So if I go and come out, I have here itself ls, and then I have jar demo.jar file is here. Fair. So what I'm going to do now is I have to go and run it, right? So to run it, I have the option that we have already seen. What is the option? I go and say that java -jar, and then I go and provide the jar name, and the jar name is jar demo dot jar file. When I go and run this, if you see here, the jar file got executed and is printing hello world. Fair enough. So Eclipse has done a lot of things very simple for us. But I want you people to be aware that if suppose the Eclipse is not there and you don't want to make use of IDE and you want to go and generate the jar file on your own, how do you go and do it? So for doing that, what we need to do is that we'll go to our terminal. Let's say that I want to go and create a file. So let me go and open my Sublime here. So now what we need to do is that let's try to go and create the jar file on our own. And for doing this, what I'll do is I'm here on my terminal. Let me go and create a folder called as mkdir is a command which we go and make use in the Linux to create the folder. If you're on the Windows, you can just go and create the folder in the location where you want. We go and call it as learning _ jar, and we go inside this folder called as learning _ jar. Now inside this folder, let me go and create a file. Right, so inside the download cd learning jar, I have to go and create a file. So for creating the file, I can go and open a Sublime text editor so that I can write the code. Let me first of all go and create the file, save the file name. So I have to go inside the downloads. Inside the downloads, jar demo learning jar folder, and let me go and call this file as hello students.java. Right, and then I go and write this class hello students, and then have a public static void main string args, and here I go and write system dot out dot print dot println, and I go and say that hello students. Simple class. I have defined this Java class. If I go into it, let me go and open my terminal. In my terminal, if I go into the ls now, I see there's a hello students.java class. Now if I have to go and run this, compilation is the first step. How do we do it? We do it with the command called as java c. So I go and say java c hello students. And now if I again do the ls, I go and see there are two files now. One is hello student.java, that's perfectly fine. And another one is the hello students.java hello students.class. Cool. Now what I need to do, I need to go and execute it first of all to see if it works. How I go and do it? I go and say the java and then hello students. Oh, I just have to go and pass name, not the dot, and it's printing. Fair enough. Now what I want to do, I want to go and create a jar file. Now I know that a jar file, if I go and talk about the jar file, it comprises of dot class files, and there's also something called as a manifest file. What it is used for, the basic part is that to go and tell what is the starting point, right? So if I have to go and create a jar out of this, what I need to do is I have to go and create a manifest file, right? So let me go and create a manifest file, and let me go and do this. Let's go to my Sublime and let's create another file save as hello students Java. This file remains the same. I have to go and create a new file, and we're going to call this as save as manifest.mf. And inside this, I go and call it as the main class equals to, what is the name of the main class? The name of the main class should be hello students. And you have to make sure that you have hit enter and you have come to the next line. Main class hello students, and you have to make sure that you have hit enter and you have come to the next class. Now let me go and save this, and once I have saved this, let me go and open to my terminal. And if I go and do here, I have hello student.class, I have manifest.mf. Now there are two manifest.mf that I go and see. If I go and open the download folder, learning jar, and then I have two manifest. So if I go and open this, just you can see the command. So if I go and do cat manifest, so the first one I should go and remove actually this one, because this is the wrong one. So I can go and simply go and say that rm minus rf manifest. I've just removed this. So if I go and now do this, I have a manifest.mf file. Now I have to go and create a jar out of it. So to create the jar out of it, what I need to do is I have to go and say that jar minus cvf m. C for the create, V for propose, F for file, and M is for providing the the manifest file location. And then I go and say that hello students. I have to go and provide the name. So I'm going to say that hello students dot jar, and then I have manifest.mf, and then I go and say that using all the things which ends with a class suffix. When I go and run this, I'm seeing an error. So the manifest.java file, there's an error here, right? So if you can see here, I'm getting something called as invalid header field. Now you have to be very careful when defining this manifest.mf file. I'm purposefully not removing this error so that you understand that how sensitive it is. So I go back to my Sublime and I see here there's a main class and there's hello student. I have to go and purposefully provide a space here. So what I go and do this, I go and provide a space, and then I come here, save this file, and let's retry if this would have solved the issue. when I go and do this, now I see that it is trying to do adding dot class, adding manifest, blah blah. If I go and run this ls command again to see what is the content right now, so I feel that now we have been able to successfully go and create this file called as hello students.jar. Now let's try to run this, and if it works, so again for that we can make use of the command called as java minus jar, and then I go and provide the hello students.jar file. And if I go and enter, I am printing hello students. So now with this, we have got a good understanding of what the jar file is. We have been able to see that how using jar file, you can go and package all the things together so that your end user customer can go and make use of it. And then eventually we have seen that how using Eclipse, or you using the normal edit cell and using Java commands, how we can go and create your own jar files. Finally, we have come to the end of day 23. We talked about jar files. We talked about running the Java the hard way through the compilation, through the terminals. I hope all the things that we have done in a hands-on manner has given a lot of insights. We understand now that how Java executable files are created and used. Let me know your experience of learning. How was the session today? Put that into the comments. Share with your friends, to all your first year folks. This should be one place solution for them if they want to have a clear-cut understanding of the Java ecosystem. Let's keep learning.